out. And sometimes you will compromise and turn your head at something that is illegal, that is very, very, very egregious, and you will allow that to happen to someone if it's going to cause you to experience some type of status change. It is a very weird, twisted mindset, perverted mindset that a lot of us have adopted because of where the environment that we grew up in. And I believe that it was very intentional for him to prey on who he preyed upon.
Definitely.
And sometimes even in the mindsets of parents, children are used as pawns. And I'm not saying that they use their children, but sometimes when you're trying to get out of where you are, that mindset will cause you to sacrifice whosoever will so that your status would change. How you feel about that, Kev?
I think what you said was so powerful. I can't really even add to that, but you're absolutely right. As you were speaking, brother, I mean, this is a wonderful conversation. This is the kind of conversation we need to have, which is, it makes me think about the passage in Malcolm X's autobiography, which I think people really need to reread periodically, the way we read the Bible or the Quran, because Malcolm talks about when you're in that kind of environment that the brother just described very eloquently, it's like animals preying on each other. And so, I know plenty of R. Kellys, and I also want to make it clear, we should not act like are some sort of exception to the rule. I remember when I graduated from high school, there were folks that I went to high school with who kept going back to the high school to try to pick up the young girls. They're like, wait a minute, man, you're 19, you're 20, you're 25 years old, man. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But just like, here's my point, though.
That's right.
Here's what I'm saying. Just how we as black people, as African people, want white folks to be allies and challenge white people around white supremacy, around racism, many of us men in the barbershops, in the churches, in the masjids, in our communities, turn our heads when we say disrespectful stuff about women. When we see men preying on women or preying on girls, we don't say anything. And that's what I'm talking about. So it's actually a community issue that really is here. Right. R. Kelly's just a symptom of a bigger problem that's a crisis in manhood in our communities, but also in America. And I would say this as a black man, and I say this when I work with brothers all over the country. I decided a long time ago I do not want my definition of black manhood to be a bootleg definition of white manhood, which is based on materialism, violence, ego, sexism, patriarchy, disrespecting women, all those kinds of things that we've actually, one sister said to me, one reason why Bill Cosby got in trouble is because he actually thought that he could do what white brothers could do. No, you can't. No, you can't.
No. And you are absolutely correct on that. My challenge is that we have adopted this identity, that we have really become comfortable with, and it's okay for us to embrace this sense of perversion. And that's not a sexual word. When you talk about perversion, it's going against the original purpose of a thing. And so in the mindsets of a lot of us in our culture, people of color, there's a sense of perverted thinking. And I believe it needs to be interrupted with information revealing on who we really are. I think that we will continue to perpetuate a behavior if we're not introduced to another level of identity. R. Kelly existed in my family, that type. I mean, I am a product of one who was molested. And it wasn't by a man, but I don't care who you were molested by. You were molested. You were taken advantage of. And there's so much that happens in households, in churches, in mosques, and different things of that nature that we do not address. Yes. And you cannot experience change without proper education. Well, and so we sweep things under the rug, and we become a product of our violation or our offense, and we grow up and we end up perpetuating what was done to us. And so because he was hurt, now he's hurting people, and no one ever grabbed him and interrupted what was done to him, and it developed a mindset, and now it becomes his norm.
I mean, if you look at the timeline, that's very clear, because even in the documentary, when they were going over his childhood, they said that R. Kelly had been molested, I believe very close to his teen years, if not in his teen years as well. And then if you look at that timeline and match it up with when he became famous, there was not that much of a gap there. There was not really time for him to seek help or to really get over that. And then when you become famous, we briefly touched on accountability. If you watch the documentary, the number one thing that I pulled from that documentary is that nobody held him accountable. Everybody was a yes man.
You know why?
So,
because he had money.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so the money gave him influence. It gave him power, and he surrounded himself with people who needed money. Therefore, they needed him,
Right.
and they enabled him.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yep.
they
That's it.
enable. Listen, anybody who has money and they hang around poverty, they will become an icon.
Absolutely.
Point blank. Period.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And that's the drug dealer. That's the celebrity.
Yep.
That's the
Absolutely.
athlete, that's anybody.
Absolutely.
I want to hear what you have to say about this, Thin Bad, because it's a little silent in your corner over there. I'm surprised.
Well, no, because you all are striking. I don't want to to jump in. You all are saying things, that need to be said. But also the other piece that Kevin touched on too is about the patriarchy and this whole deal, the whole thing that we do. There was a time when the black male was the keeper of the community.
Yeah.
The protector in the community. And now you have this cat who is a predator and other predators who come out in the community. And what we do, we end up focusing on the victims. So we tell the girls, don't wear this. Don't sit on a Gus's lap. Don't do, instead of who's talking to the young brothers and saying, hey, don't grow up and be a predator.
Right.
Don't
right.
treat a woman this way.
Right.
Don't step out that way. Where we spend so much time, you see the guys that come, first thing out of their mouth is, oh, them girls are lying. And all this. Wait a minute. Hold on. I mean, this is that whole, that rape culture that exists.
Right.
And has seduced people's minds to the point where you begin to blame the victim immediately without
Exactly.
anything else. And again, then it cuts back into that celebrity piece. It cuts back into the point, well, this dude, he has enough money to change my situation.
Right. Right.
So some of them may even be pimping their children in some ways. And, it's crazy, but this is the kind of society that we're in, and we've got to get back to the place where we become the protectors in the community. That you don't stand for that. When you go into the barbershops and things like that, people know what's going on.
Absolutely.
People know who's doing what.
Absolutely.
And so I think we have to get back to the place where we start taking care of all children as our children.
And that's great. And my thing is, I'll say this: me being from Chicago, the streets knew R. Kelly and what he was on. The streets knew, just like in our families, we know Uncle Bobby has a sex problem, and so we try to adjust the children to accommodate Uncle Bobby's problem instead of challenging Uncle Bobby to get some help. And that's what you were saying, Thin Bad. We
That's
don't.
right.
We help people to adapt to an environment and cause them to change. However, it's the predators that need to change. But we knew what R. Kelly was on. But there is a status, I believe, in society to today that people reach that we feel that they're untouchable, and that's not fair. It's not fair. And it goes
We
back.
tell children.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm
No.
sorry.
No. Go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
we tell children early. We teach children early that it's okay for someone to touch your body. Whether it's something as simple as tickling or pinching your cheek or something. I couldn't stand to have my cheek pinched. But your parents
Right.
say, that's okay. They don't mean anything
That's right.
by it. They don't mean
That's
nothing
right.
by it. Oh, it's just a love tap when they tap you on the butt.
That's right.
Whoa, you are invading my body, and you are teaching
There
me
we
that
go.
there are times when it's okay for me to let someone older than me touch my body when I don't want them to touch it.
Yeah, see, and that's it right there. And so it's like he's trying to see how far he can go to get you used to being touched. And the next thing you know, he's touching you in improper places. And so, I mean, I believe that it's a training, and it is literally designed to devalue a people, to humiliate us to the point where we have no self-confidence and we tolerate and accept any behavior that comes to us. R. Kelly is, listen, he is one out of a million individuals. These young ladies that came forward, there's so many who have not come forward. And I believe it is a movement that we can learn from and begin to share with our daughters in a greater way, that they do not have to subscribe and acquiesce to this type of behavior.
Exactly. And also, let me just remind our audience, please call us at 702-425-7789. 702-425-7789. And, of course, you're able to chat live with us because we definitely want to hear what your thoughts are about this subject. And, you know, Pastor C, you and Thin Bad made a good point.
Well, I think we have a caller.
Somebody call her. That scared you, huh, Aunt Beezy?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
Our brother engineer's
That
going
what scared me too.
right? I'm like, oh, alrighty then.
That's not Gabriel blowing his horn, is he? I don't know what's going on.
I sure hope not. I ain't ready. Ready.
So,
I'm not
so
ready.
anyway, let's get our call in since they want to call.
Caller?
Caller, you're live. Yes, caller, you're live with Thin Bad, Pastor C, our guest Kevin Powell, and Ambeezy.
Caller.
I guess the
And our
caller.
caller's
Okay,
gone.
but anyway, you know, people.
Call us back, please. We have some technical
People used
difficulties.
to really make jokes about
Or text.
inappropriate information and touching. Remember, people used to tell you, "Hey, man, you up there with Junior? You letting Junior around those kids?"
Exactly. Right. It's not funny, though, because Junior was on something
They
then.
knew Junior was crazy.
Yeah, they did. And they knew that they were aware that Junior had a problem. And so that's my thing, guys. Why do we, in society today, cause the victim to adjust to a predatory environment instead of challenging the predator and getting them some help? Does that make sense at all, or am I by myself?
No, I don't think you're by yourself
you
at
are
all.
right on.
I don't think you're by yourself at all.
No, I think you, but I think all of us are just kind of puzzled that this
I'm not
could have been
puzzled.
going on for so long, and it just seems this guy's been skating for years, just destroying lives.
I'm not puzzled that this has happened. I'm puzzled at the extent that it happened. So, you know, as you guys know, I am also very, very, very familiar with the music industry. And even though, you know, I'm just starting out and stuff, but one of the things that I've already noticed is when it comes to these stars, rappers, singers, whoever, there's really no point in which these people question, how old are you? That's not really a thing. Even if you go on social media, you have Instagram famous girls who look like they're 25, but they're really 14. But you have rappers, I mean, like the rapper 6ix9ine. The rapper 6ix9ine has already been under heat for messing with like a 14-year-old girl and stuff like that. So this stuff happens all the time in the entertainment industry. The only thing that shocked me was the extent that it was happening when it comes to him locking these girls in the house and cuffing them and starving them and all this stuff. Like, that part was truly disturbing to me. But the part about, you know, the idea of this celebrity messing with an underage girl did not surprise me at all.
Well, let's go to what's happening or what happened in white America. And I'm not trying to be the racial guy to pull the race card. However, Hugh Hefner had been doing that stuff for years.
Yep.
In terms of having young ladies living with him, and it was okay. And I'm not condoning it at all. And he has never been brought up on any charges or anything like that. But when you look at what is happening, it is literally in society today okay to have a plethora of women, whether they be young or old, in your camp. There are so many, not just celebrities, but men who think that pimping, excuse me for using that terminology, that pimping is okay. We hear it in our songs or whatever, how you play on the women, how you play on young ladies and get their mind and stuff like that. And it is literally being marketed today that it is okay and it's cool. You got swag if you are a pimp. And I don't understand that. But when you bring multiple women under your rule, okay, and you're controlling them, you have a psychological problem.
Right.
And I believe that the things that he experienced in his youth he never got healed from. And that's why it points to our topic, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
He couldn't do anything but perpetuate what was done to him.
And you can tell that, because I think one of the most twisted things that I heard that really made the psychological link for me was, as a child,